Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Supah Nerd-tendo on No Fucks Given Radio.
Select your player. Player 1, start.
You're serious, aren't you?
About what I do, yes. Not necessarily the way I do it.
The Thing. Is this dork made of orange rock like the rest of his body?
It's a different morality. Get used to it or go home.
As long as I'm not that person.
The evil one.
Well, nobody's perfect, but that's overstating it a little.
Comic book shit.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Yeah, pretty obscure.
Don't you think that's plain damn weird?
Your host, Mr. DKB of the Super Smash Bros. And the Unknown Factor.
Did it work?
Supah Nerd-tendo.
Enough said.
As long as I can click all the motherfucking buttons, ladies and gentlemen, that's what the fuck is up. All you fuckers out there watching, this is No Fucks Given Radio. I am the Unknown Factor, and tonight we get a little motherfucking nerdy, so I got DKB in the house. DKB, what's good?
What's going on, man?
And I don't know. I was trying to, work on this one project, and then work on this other project, and then there's this other project, and then there's this goddamn radio I apparently run. I don't know. Shout out to this motherfucker right here, DKB. Definitely fucking putting work in on the radio on bro, a lot of levels. Yeah, you know?
Working.
Legit. Fucking all kinds of goddamn shit. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's Supah Nerd-tendo, and tonight we have a very special guest who's done a shit. Man, did you look at this motherfucker's Wikipedia, DKB?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah.
Right.
So, look, oh man, I'm fucking, hold on. Tony G, oh man, I'm gonna fucking butcher it anyways, even though I asked. Tony, god damn it, it's Tony D in the house. What's up, Tony?
Jeez.
And fucking, like you said, you're fucking in when you were in goddamn gym, they even called you Tony. I don't want to hear it. Whatever.
That's right.
He's got gym teachers looking at his last name going, fuck it. Tony?
What's up?
You know.
What's going on? What's up? What's going on, nerd world?
Hell yeah.
Nerd-tendo world.
First off, Tony, I want to say thank you for stopping by. Secondly, man, I don't even know where to begin with you. Holy shit. Tony, you've done quite a bit. On all kinds of different nerdery levels, man. I mean, from you've written some 20D game books, you've got comics that you've created yourself, you've worked on quite a few things that are, I mean, more well known, probably most prominent that being the Simpsons, and a number of other things, as well as written some movies, this and that. I want to know, where did you start, man? Where did you initially step your foot in, and why?
I got started writing stories when I was in first grade, because there was a contest in first grade where you could get a free McDonald's hamburger if you wrote a short story. And I really liked McDonald's when I was in first grade, so I would win the story contest every single month just to get a hamburger. I was writing these short stories. And I eventually started doing a short story series called The Inspector, and he was my version of Inspector Clouseau, because I was a very big Pink Panther fan at the time. And so that's how I got started when I was a kid, writing stories and doing that kind of stuff. And that branched into doing short films, and eventually, as I was coming up in high school, I was trying to do films, and it's so hard to do films. I mean, anybody who's been in the film business knows how much money is involved, all the people, all the tech. It's mind-boggling, and it's very hard to do by yourself. It's nearly impossible to do by yourself. And so, I would put together these projects, and they would always fall apart because, I had to rely on other people. And so eventually I got discouraged, and, I was reading comics at the time, and I thought, oh, maybe I could write some comics. Somebody said that comics are like the poor man's film medium, and I thought, ooh, that resounded with me. I can do that. I'm poor. So I started writing comics, figuring this will be easy. I'll walk in there, these guys will think, wow, you're an amazing storyteller. we're gonna make your comics. And at first it was very tough because all I had was scripts. I'm a writer, and people would go, yeah, I'm not going to read that. Because nobody in comics or movies or anywhere reads anything at any time. They only read shit that like other people tell them is good, and then they might read it because it's fun. It's like almost impossible to get anybody in the business to read anything. People in comics don't read comics. We all know that if you've been in it. As soon as you get in the comic biz, you're like, stop reading comics. You don't have time or money, and you just stop reading it. There's just no time. You're constantly making comics. Same thing with movies. It's like nobody reads scripts. I worked with a producer. He would have his assistant boil down screenplays into like 10 pages, and then that was too much. So we had him boil down to 1 page, and then that was too much. And he had the assistant boil it down to a paragraph. And he just kept boiling it down. He still didn't have time to read anything. He still never read it.
This is why shitty movies get made.
That's the industry.
Isn't it, Tony?
Yeah. So I eventually got some artists. I started, my first comic was Jersey Devil #1. And I do pretty well with Jersey Devil. It's still to this day, I always sell copies because I live in South Jersey, and the Jersey Devil is well known as an urban legend here that goes back 250 years or more. And so I'm always selling copies of Jersey Devil. Everybody loves the Jersey Devil. And, from there, I spun into doing other comics. I got other deals, and finally, at some point, I got some screenplays going, and I got to work on TV shows, and it all just spirals into other stuff. If you have contacts with people and you're even remotely talented, they'll let you do it. But it's just weird because, like, at heart, I'm a writer, and nobody wants to write. Nobody in these businesses want to write. They want to take credit for the writing. They don't want to actually do the writing because I guess everybody wants to feel like they're smart, but writing takes a lot of work. It's not easy. People think they know English. I can write. I can write my name. Why can't I write a story? I know the English language. I know the right words. I can type. I'll write a novel. Nah, it's not that easy. It requires a tremendous amount of thinking, and there's skills involved, and most people don't want to develop those skills. But I did, so that's what I do.
I gotta ask you then, Tony, who's your favorite writer?
Ooh. Well, I'm very partial to Kurt Vonnegut, of course. I was a huge fan of his. Still am. I pretty much read all his books. I got to meet him just briefly. He came to my college to speak. He was very drunk, or pretended to be. I'm not sure which. And he gave a great speech. And, he's just awesome. I loved Kurt because he had this thing, which anybody who's read him knows, where he takes little side characters and then they become main characters in other things, or they get mentioned in other books. And so he has his own little universe. I mean, there's a Kurt Vonnegut universe out there that of all these different characters that go in and out of his novels. And it's fun. It's fun to read that because then you're reading one thing and then he mentions Kilgore Trout and you're like, oh yeah, Kilgore Trout. He was mentioned like 5 times in all the other novels. So it's a lot of fun. Hunter S. Thompson was a big influence on me. I've definitely read everything Hunter has written. I just love the savage way he uses words, and he just, it just grinds out of him, and you can't help but read the whole thing because everything is so epic. The way he writes it, everything's at stake, and everything's like grimy and gritty. I just love Hunter's work. Even all the way up until the end, he still had it. And Jack Kirby, of course. I have huge respect for Jack Kirby. I never really understood the incredible mind of Kirby until towards the end of his life when he came out with those Topps comics. I don't know if you remember these. Came out in the early to mid-'90s. And Kirby created a whole universe for Topps comics. And it was the sort of thing he created within a couple of issues that they could have easily done 500 issues of. I mean, it was that good of a foundation, and you could see it from just those first issues. They were amazing, and I was just like blown away by how, I mean, like, you know, Kirby was older, some of his dialogue was dated, but his foundation was incredible, you know? And that's what's really wrong with a lot of mainstream stuff today. They have a terrible foundation. They just come up with some cool thing, and they think, this will work. But they fail to look down the road, like, how is this going to develop? How, you know, sometimes these guys, I think, they ruin their own creation. I think, you know, if you look at a character like Spawn, and Todd McFarlane had some good ideas when he created Spawn, I thought. And he let some other writers write it, and they had some good ideas, and it was going along nicely, but he kind of couldn't exploit the good ideas he had in the right way. He just didn't have those skills, and in the end, some of those great details about Spawn, I think, got left by the wayside or removed, and it wasn't as good, in my opinion. So there's real skill in writing that I don't think people appreciate.
You're referring purely to the comic book when you say that.
Yeah. I mean, the movies are a whole different thing, and the TV show's a different thing, but, you know.
We won't get into the Spawn movie. I mean, John Leguizamo. Hey, look, John Leguizamo was the only thing in that film that was worth anything, in my opinion, as far as just fucking like the price of the ticket. Huh?
Not that bad.
Yeah. What, have you never seen the Spawn movie?
Oh, yeah, I like him.
You like, man, there's, and look, I don't even mean like as far as following the character or anything. It's just kind of a terrible movie in a lot of ways. I don't know. It felt like they were trying to get a whole story of like a 60-issue arc out in an hour and a half, which is a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah, you can't do that. That was a huge problem with that first Judge Dredd movie with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, they had this big ending with, spoiler alert, you know, the other judge, and that was something that went over like hundreds of issues. I've been told. I never actually read the old Judge Dredd or much of them. I've read some of them, and you know, there were a whole other lot of problems with the movies, but that was a huge one of them. It's like you can't you can't take 600 issues worth of stuff. Akira even suffers from that, and that's a great movie, you know? There's so much going on in Akira. Like, that was something that stretched over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, you know, comic book pages. There's certain movies that are good. There's certain comics that are good movie ideas, and then there are certain comics that are good TV ideas. You know? If it's like, you take Bill Tucci's She, part of the problem I think with She was she finally got her revenge, and that kind of ends the movie, you know? So that really makes She, in my opinion, more of a movie type property, you know? Once she gains her revenge, it's kind of over. You know, if Batman captures the guys who killed his parents, it's done. You're done with it. So you kind of can't do that. It's like you can't have Superman marry Lois Lane. It kills it. You can't have Peter Parker get the girl. It's over then. You've ended it. You know, it's gotta have this dynamic and balance to it that, you know, and if you want it to actually progress, you have to understand, like, there are certain elements of it you can't fuck with. You can't fuck with certain things.
No, Tony, Deadpool was right. If all the heroes want peace, they have to kill the writers.
Yeah, sure. Sure. The writers, their job is to make the characters miserable.
Oh, that's terrible. Like, what did you do today? Oh, I fucked up Spider-Man's day. You ever wonder if fucking Stan Lee thought that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is. You lay it out. So, I mean, that was the great thing about Kirby and this Topps comic. Like, he launched this comic where the premise was there were 9 ages of man, and we're the 9th age. But at the end of the 8th age of man, everybody was going to die. Just about everybody was going to die. And these scientists get together to save 3 heroes to help usher in the 9th age of man, right? And the way they're going to create them is they're going to put them in these suspended animation chambers, and over 10,000 years, they're going to get superpowers. And then they're going to wake up in the new age of man, and they're going to help the new age of man, right? So they do that, and they put these guys to sleep. Well, it turns out the scientists didn't want to die. So they secretly built like 100 other chambers. It was 100 or 1,000, I forget. I think it's 100. 100 other chambers to save themselves and give themselves superpowers. So they're the villains in the comic. They become the villains because, you know, they weren't supposed to even survive, and they let themselves survive, and they become the villains that these three heroes now have to fight because they all wake up early because they're the scientists, and they were able to make themselves wake up a little early. And now they're out to kill these three people that they were originally supposed to save. So that's like a great premise, right? You got 100 villains to work with. You know, Kirby didn't introduce them all. He just set that, you know, in motion so you could then introduce them one at a time and like have 100 different villains. I mean, that's 500 issues easy, you know?
I mean, that's... What do you think it is then? Let me ask. I asked. Then this conversation pretty much started with the question of who's your favorite writer. Let me ask, what writer do you think is the most overrated?
Well, in the world of comics, there are a lot of guys who I think, I don't want to name any particular names because I don't want to start something.
Fair. I'm just trying to start shit over here, Tony. Like, come on. Who do you think's overrated? I just kind of want to know your honest opinion from an inside perspective, but at the same time, yeah, if you give me a name, it'll probably start some shit.
Well, look, you know, back in the day, I was a huge Chuck Dixon fan. I still am. I like Chuck Dixon. But at some point, they had him writing too many comics, right? And it all became like the Punisher sort of blurred in with Batman, sort of blurred in with Deathstroke, you know? It was a lot of like Tom Clancy-esque stuff, which he likes to write. And so I think when he was writing like 6 different titles a month, his work kind of suffered a little, you know? And I think there are guys like that today. The comic industry doesn't really hunt down writers. That's part of the problem. It used to be that editors in Marvel and DC and all these companies, it was a real profession that was paid real money, and you had to have real skill to be an editor. You had to have vision. You had to know what was good. You read a lot. Now that's just not the case. Most of these guys are corporate guys. They punch a clock. They're in all sorts of different divisions. Sometimes they fall into comics, and sometimes they don't. And they don't know enough about anything to really know what's good or bad. So how do they hire people? Well, at that point, when you're just punching a clock, you're going to do the easiest thing. So they hire a few guys at random. Maybe they hire their friends or the guy down the hall because, you know, especially now that they're in LA, they don't look very hard at all. You know, I just met a famous comic creator a couple of weeks ago. Again, I won't say his name. He's a nice guy. His work is decent. But, you know, he told me he worked in the Marvel marketing department for like years, and then he became a writer. And I just thought to myself, why the fuck would Marvel hire him to be a writer? He worked in the goddamn marketing department. That's not a writer. Look, he may have good ideas, and, you know, the guy's done well for himself. I don't fault him, but there's no fucking way I would have hired that guy. I would hire a guy who wrote books. You know, as much as here's a guy I think is overrated. Ed Brubaker. He was overrated, I thought. Now, but I respect Brubaker because at least he was an author. You know, he was a writer who wrote books, and they hired him. You know, guys who just they come out of the marketing department. It's like, they might be good, but they don't really know how to structure stories. And part of the problem, too, is, especially in the corporate comic world, there's so many hindrances. So many. There are contract things. There's political things within the office. They're fighting over each and every book and who gets to do what and whose money gets what. I mean, one of the things they fight over is they don't want to create any new characters because that's more work for the lawyers, and they don't want to do that work. Plus, they're going to have to pay you royalties if you create a new guy. So they want you to use one of the old guys and revamp them, so they're not going to have to pay any royalties. Plus, if you do a new guy and then another writer comes on the book, he's not going to want to use your characters. He's going to want all new characters, so he won't continue what you started. So there's all this like infighting, and it all has to do with money. Whereas if you look at when comics started and you look at the price guides, all the early issues are like first appearance, first appearance, first appearance, first appearance, first appearance. Because that's what it was. It was like guys just coming up with shit on the top of their head, and they're just cranking it out. And they all got screwed for money, most of the early guys, but a few of them didn't. But, you know, that's the way you create. When I do my own stuff, that's the way it is. I'm like, first appearance, first appearance. I do a comic strip called Tales of Pizza, which is about me as a pizza guy. I hardly ever repeat any characters. It's all this pizza guy and a couple other supporting characters, but that's it. It's mostly just him meeting new people, delivering pizzas. You know, there's no reason to repeat myself. It's harder to repeat yourself because then you have to take in the baggage from that character and what you have to read what happened in the previous encounter, and you have to up the ante. You know, I can keep doing new characters all day long. In the world of the big corporate comics, they have to constantly bring back these characters and like, oh, here's another version of this villain, and here's another version of his sidekick, and here's a new costume, and here's a new.
Yeah, Tony, I know what you're talking about, because like Deadpool was my like favorite character growing up, and now I look at it now and I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I always describe it to fans as like, you know, the Marvel and DC universes are like these giant fish bowls, and they're constantly pouring action figures in, but none of them ever come out. and the bowl just fills, and then they start spilling out, and you're like, oh man, there's so many characters. Like, why don't they just get rid of some or stop doing some? There's no money in that. It's all about money. Money, 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 money. So at the end of the day, you have to understand that your loyalty to these characters, they're not really, you know, it's like being loyal to a bottle of ketchup. I mean, they're going to keep selling you that ketchup until you hate the ketchup. And they're not going to give you any new ketchup until you decide, screw this, I want better ketchup. So my advice to fans is, if you don't like comics, don't buy them anymore, because they're not going to change them as long as you keep buying them. And even now, like, sales are way down across the board, and they're still not changing them. And that's part and parcel of the business of comics, whereas you got the big corporate comics that are now just divisions of these massive corporations, you know, that they don't need to make money on the comics. They just need to sort of keep them in print. So, you know, they don't really care now. You know, they don't need to get their subscriptions up so they could sell ad space, really.
So you really think that's part of the problem? They just
got to get it out there.
Yeah, because, I mean, you've got DC owned by Warner Brothers, and they're obviously pushing out an absurd amount of shit, cartoons, movies, all this, and then they've got the action figure deals. And I mean, it's the same thing with Marvel in the case of Disney. You think that's something that has really affected the quality of those two particular brands? Absolutely. I mean, you look at Marvel. Marvel's now driven mostly by ideology. It's not driven by, in my view, anything close to sales, because and they had this great opportunity. The Marvel movies are great, and you don't know how much it hurts me to say that. The Marvel movies are great. Wait,
I wanted to hate the Marvel movies.
Why does that? Why does that hurt you?
It hurts me because Disney owns them, and I hate Disney.
All right, I understand that point.
Yeah, I mean, but they still continue to be great. I just saw the Infinity War. It was awesome. I loved it. You know, and you cannot argue with the amazing quality of these movies that are coming out. You know, meanwhile, they've taken all the main characters out of the Marvel comics. Like, this is totally the wrong time to do that if you expect the movie fans to move over to the Marvel comics and actually read them. You know, people don't go to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and then want to pick up a comic and say, well, wait a minute, who's this? You know, it totally confuses them, and you've got about 5 seconds to get their attention, or otherwise they're off to go buy something else. So, you know, from a strictly business plan from the business of comics, that makes absolutely no sense. But when you remember that they don't have to make money, and probably nobody cares if they make money, they're just trying to, like, I don't know, make the news, I guess, with their their various diversity things. They're just trying to
wait. Well, let me clarify for anybody listening that doesn't know. You're more referring to the fact of, like, they made Iceman gay. They made fucking Falcon Captain America. They made, like, shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, those weren't necessarily things that were out of the realm of Marvel.
Well,
like,
this is true, but they were timed. It was their timing as far as within what was happening socially at that moment and what they did as a response. I feel like I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, but, like, look, there's gay characters in the Marvel Universe already.
Yeah.
North Star's gay. That was a big deal back in the 80s. He came out as gay. Where the hell is he? Bring him out. You know, he was a good character.
People make Iceman gay out of nowhere.
Yeah, like, there's nothing in his character's past to indicate, oh, he's been gay this whole time. He's been in the closet. That's a big stretch. That character has a long history. Why not just make a bunch of new gay characters? Like, you know, why not? It seems like that would be welcome. To arbitrary... I mean, like, the thing with Captain America, that's no big deal. The big deal with Captain America is when they made him a Nazi. That was ridiculous. That again, there's nothing in his history that indicates that, and it seems just like, well, you know, we're going to make a headline this week.
See, but that's all it was, though, because if you read that whole story, it goes back. It wasn't actually him. It was Steve-ul, as Deadpool likes to call him. I love that Deadpool call. Oh, sorry, I've been reading a bunch of fucking Deadpool comics here recently. I can't lie. I hit my library and, like, they had a fucking shitload I hadn't read, and I was like, oh yeah. And he's all fucking with the evil Steve Rogers, who he calls Steve-ul. Yeah. So
yeah, and Steve-ul is actually, and Steve-ul isn't even, in my view, an original concept, because Steve-ul is evil is from Knights of the Dinner Table comic, and I worked with the guys at Knights of the Dinner Table for many years, and those guys have a character named Steve-ul, and Steve-ul is evil. So I think it was likely somebody read that somewhere and decided, like, oh, we'll just, you know, cap that in there, but who knows? Maybe it's just a coincidence, but it's an awful tight coincidence. The world of comics is pretty damn small. So, but yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, and the real big one too was changing Iron Man into, you know, they got a totally new character, female girl named America or something, and it's just like, you know, make a new character. I mean, that's a new character. Give her own title. I mean, why not? Marvel's been doing that for years. Just start new titles and see what flies.
And
the problem with that,
well, but why put a chick and call her Iron Man?
Yeah, why call her Iron Man? Right. I mean, she's not. And then they changed her name to Iron Heart and all this other stuff, and it's just like, well, basically, all you did was piss off the Iron Man fans for several months, and then you eventually, you know, develop her into her own title. Like, look, back in the day, Iron Man wasn't even a title. It was, what was it, Tales to Astonish, right? Strange Tales, one of those. You know, that's what you need. You need these anthology comics, and now that everything's going onto the web, this is a perfect opportunity to do that. Create an anthology banner, do a bunch of different stories, do gay characters, do women characters, do all the characters you want. You know, do the whole damn diversity rainbow and throw in the regular guys too, so people read it, and throw in Spider-Man. People will read it. They like comics. Why not? It's not like they're hostile to their stuff. You piss them off when you throw it into their normal comic that suddenly, like, my main character's gone. The guy I'm following is gone. Why? Like, don't do that to people. They get totally disillusioned because people are hanging by a thread in the comic book stores. They're hanging by a damn thread. I was too for a long time, and then they killed off Norman Osborn Jr., and that was it for me. I was done with Spider-Man. That was the last Spider-Man comic I bought. Norman Osborn Jr. died, and I was done. I was pissed off they killed him. Boom, done.
But they always bring them back. Nobody fucking... Whoever dies in comics permanently.
Doesn't matter.
Oh no,
It
come on.
made me
DKB,
mad.
back me up on this, bro. Nobody dies in comics permanently. Nobody.
Sure, but it doesn't matter. They pissed me off.
But it still turns you wrong. I'm the same way. Like, I'm a Batman fan. They killed Batman. It's just not the same. Like, how many times can they do that? They can do that infinite amount of times.
Well, they don't kill off Batman for real.
It just goes back in the
probably
Lazarus
kill off
pit, and they bring him back.
Yeah, they'll bring him back, but the problem is they bring back people too much, too. So none of these changes, none of these stories even matter. So what you want to see in a book like Batman, where they're never going to kill Batman, is just fucking parade an endless supply of new villains. Wouldn't you want to see that? A new villain every issue
that's
for
the best
2
part of
fucking
Batman.
years. Huh?
That's the best part of Batman, the villain.
Yeah. Just fucking put a 2-year ban on all the old villains and do nothing but new villains for like two fucking years. People would love it. They would love it. Now, not all of those villains would be popular. Some would just go, this guy was okay.
Yeah,
This
you
guy
get your
sucks.
occasional condiment, man.
But, you know, when I was I pitched for Batman, and that was exactly what I pitched. I pitched 1 year, self-contained stories, 12 issues, 12 new villains, vote online for your favorite new Rogues Gallery villain. And they said, no, there's no way we'll do it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I
know.
would almost love to see that done in every fucking comic book, not just Batman. I think it'd be interesting.
Sure. Who wouldn't want to see more Spider-Man villains?
Oh.
Like, you know, how many times are you going to drag out the fucking Vulture? Or you know.
Hey, but it was nice
the
to see
Rhino.
him. It was nice to see Vulture properly done in film, finally. You do have to say that much.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
But the films are different. The films are new. The whole world's new. They're representing it or whatever. So you can do that in the films. But this is a comics. Listen, fuck nuts who run the comic book industry. We get it. Batman's not supposed to be 100 fucking years old. Okay, we get it. He's been around since 1939. We've seen the giant penny and the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the Batcave. We fucking get it. Okay? He fought with Sergeant Rock back in the 50s. I saw that issue. It's great. Just fucking keep the history. That's all we're saying. Keep the fucking continuity. We don't care how old they get. We don't care. We know they're not supposed to be that old. We don't fucking care. We just want to see Batman punch guys.
So are you really like a stickler about continuity? Like, what's your opinion? Because this is one thing that when I read Marvel heavily and even go back and like when I go to the library pick a bunch now, it's something you see. They'll use cosmic events ostensibly to reset things. Like what I'm assuming is about to happen in the film series with the Infinity Gauntlet. I mean, you've seen that in the Marvel Universe in numerous times in numerous objects, you know what I'm saying? Do you got a problem with that, or would you let that shit fly? I'm curious.
Well, what you have to understand, here's the problem with it. If you do it once, it's an event. If you do it twice, you fucked yourself. Because now you can go back to the well at any time and bring characters back to life or change this character's history or do that. You can't keep going back to that shit. It's a real fucking problem if you up the ante too far. Like Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the 80s was a great event. It was great because it was really the first event of its kind, and the DC Universe by that time had become so incredibly unwieldy, it needed that crisis to fucking straighten everything out. And that was great. And they killed off the Flash, and it's a great series. You should read it. George Perez, I mean, come on. But the problem is they keep going. Every time they get themselves in trouble, they go, oh, shit, we'll just do another crisis and we'll fix it. Can't keep doing it. Because once you've saved the universe, then you got to do something bigger. Now we have to save the multiverse. Once you've saved the multiverse, then what do you do? You know, for a while they were doing everything to Gotham. They had an earthquake, they had a plague, they had, lawlessness. I mean, you can't up the ante that much. That's like a bad strategy from a writer's perspective, because the writer knows, whoa, once you go that high, you can't come back down, because then everybody's like, oh, this isn't as cool. This isn't as cool as an earthquake as Gotham. This isn't as cool. Just like Batman getting some purse snatcher. What am I, 5? I want to see him save the multiverse. So you can't fucking go that high. So you got to keep things in perspective where they belong. Okay? Superman belongs, in Metropolis, fighting giant robots or aliens or whatever. Batman belongs in Gotham, fighting the mafia or street crime or whatever, because that's the kind of character he is. And yeah, you can have these crossovers, you can have the Justice League and all that shit. But you got to kind of keep them a little separate, and you can't have these massive crossovers and expect people to be able to process them all. First off, who the fuck could afford them all at this point?
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, that's half the reason I got out of comics. I couldn't afford to buy them anymore. I was reviewing comics and getting paid to do it. My pay wasn't enough to cover the fucking comics.
Jesus Christ.
So I started reviewing webcomics, because I was just like, fuck this. I want to make some money. But, they have to understand that if you want to have a universe, the universe has to make sense. So you have to have a continuity, or you have nothing. If everybody's just off on their own and continuity doesn't matter, well, then don't expect me to buy a fucking crossover. Continuity doesn't matter. My friend drew Batman for a few years, and he called me up one day. He said, which Batmobile is he driving these days? And I thought, and I'm like, I'm not sure. I've seen a bunch of different ones. Why don't you just call the DC offices and ask them? I'm sure they know. So he calls the DC offices, and they're like, well, Jim Lee drew a splash page with like 50 Batmobiles, so just draw whatever the hell you want.
Oh, fuck.
So, that doesn't make any sense. Look, Batman's fucking fighting crime every day. He doesn't have time to build 50 Batmobiles. It was fun to see. It was fun to see the era of Batman based on the Batmobile. There was the one with the giant bat head on the front of it. That was cool, the old school one. There was the one from Adam West era Batman. That was cool. There's the Tim Burton Batman. Let's have the Batmobile.
They all have their own era.
Yeah. That's
I just
cool.
can't
That's the way
imagine. Wait, now how recent was this that he was told that, Tony?
That was a few years ago. Yeah, that was back.
I mean, less than a decade, though.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be less than a decade.
Have Jim Lee.
But that's when shit started to fall apart. After Jim Shooter, most of the editors don't give two flying fucks about continuity, and I don't blame them. I mean, they're working guys. They're barely sort of surviving in this very tight corporate environment. They're not getting paid a lot of money. The lawyers are running the show. I can't blame them for wanting to keep their jobs. It's the fans that I blame for putting up with it. So if you're a fan, my advice to you is don't put up with this shit. When you start reading a comic and realize, hey, this flies in the face of the other fucking comic, and that's not what I want, and these assholes want me to buy a crossover, you send them an email, and if they don't respond or get back to you, fuck those guys. Buy somebody else's comic. Come to the web comics. Come to the dark web. That's where the cool stuff's happening anyway. All the creators who used to have to work at the big companies, they're not working there anymore because they're out in L.A. It's a very cliquey situation. Good luck getting a gig. Now they're all on the web. Everybody's on the web. They've got these crazy comics about all kinds of insane stuff, everything you possibly think of. Why would you limit yourself to buying superhero comics from corporate giants that don't give two flying fucks if you ever give them $4? They don't even need the money. They expect the comic divisions to lose money. Fuck them.
Oh, yeah.
That's just fucking... I love it, Tony, but it's really just kind of crazy. Well, I'm curious, man. I'm going to pose a question to you that I've proposed to many musicians, because I think it's something that has affected almost any industry and every industry, and especially what you just brought up as far as everything being available on the web comics, all of this. Do you think comic books going that way, as far as being web-based as opposed to, something you go in and physically pick up, do you think that's a good or a negative thing for the industry?
Oh, it's absolutely a good. Absolutely a good. Because it's opened up. Look, I used to do print comics. When I did the Jersey Devil, that was my print comic. It took me months to get it going. I had to spend thousands of dollars to get it printed. I had to spend months promoting before and after it came out. And, it took us a good 3 months to get the next issue out. And it's really tough to do print comics. Web comics works like this. I email some artist. He agrees to work with me. I email him a contract. He signs the contract. He does the comic. And within a week, I got it posted, and I'm making money on the web. And it's a totally new concept. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's one of my older concepts, and I just got a new artist for it. But that's the difference. Like, I have all this flexibility. I got 24 different webcomics on my site. I can do whatever the hell I want. I can do any genre. I can stop and start them. It's awesome.
Now, but back to a point you made earlier. You said they were essentially hiring people that weren't writers. Does it worry you with things being that simple that it'll come to the point where comics, there's so many fucking options that it's like, hey, well, 99% of this is shit. I don't want to sift through it for 1%. You ever think that'll become a problem?
That's pretty much the way it is. I mean, if you look at Marvel and DC, yeah, you can argue that, well, they've got a certain bar and they adhere to it, but most, I think, of what anybody publishes isn't all that great. So, the cream rises to the top, and eventually the good stuff gets recognized, and people go, wow, that's a great comic, or that's great art, or that's a great story. And they come to seek it out. That's what the internet is. It's the great equalizer. If you're good, somebody will figure it out, and they'll be your fan. You just have to have confidence in yourself, and you have to keep working. A lot of these guys, they start web comics, and they just, after a few months or a year, they go, I got stuff to do. Screw this, and they close up shop. You gotta stick with it. You gotta build up a brand, and you gotta let people, you gotta let people see the good and the bad of your work, and it's the way it's going anyway. Print is going to be dead. It's just not going to be worth it to print much of anything.
Can I be honest?
Now a luxury.
That's just sort of sad to me, Tony, because it's just me. I guess I'm just old school in this way. Like, if I'm reading a comic, I so prefer to have it in my fucking hand in a physical paper paper format. I want paper. I don't know. I don't like reading it off fucking tablet and shit as much.
Sorry, old man. You are in the minority.
Fan. Hold up. First off, how old are you, Tony?
I'm 52, old man.
TKB, I just had a 52-year-old call me an old man. Son of a bitch.
Look, I can download a comic. I could download a comic on my phone right now and read it while I'm talking to you guys.
It's the same with CDs. CDs are going digital. Music's going digital.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything's going to be in your phone or on your computer or physical copy.
And then one day it's all going to be Ready Player
community?
One. We're really going to the Ready Player One world. We really are. It's going to be a goddamn giant simulation. We all go and fucking meet and fight and fuck in. That's really what it's going to be.
Nah, look, you'll still have hard copies of things, but it'll be the thing that you really, really like. The thing that you reread or that you have in your house or apartment so you could impress people and say, oh, I got a hard copy of that. Oh, what is that? And, you talk about it. I mean, there's still a world for that, but most
it's
people
coffee table books. What the fuck?
That's where it's all headed, man. And then you're talking about the future, and my nephew who just turned 18 not too long ago, he doesn't read comics. He doesn't have time to read comics. If it's not on his phone, it doesn't even exist for him. Okay? My younger nephew is 15. If it's not on a phone and it's not a little game you could play on the phone, then you might as well hang it up. And he draws comics. I don't think he's ever bought one in his life. And he wants to draw comics. So he's going into animation. But, like, his comics are going to be like Homestuck. You know? They're going to be on the web. They're going to have animation. They're going to have little games. They're going to have music.
I guess that's what it is, too. Is it's going to turn into where comics are at least partially animated.
Yeah, and there's some cool stuff out there. I just discovered this comic called Plainview, Pennsylvania. And when you go there, it's about this really weird town. It's a little like Stranger Things. And when you read the comic, your cursor goes over the panels. And if the panel lights up, you can click it, and it has a sound effect that goes with whatever's in the panel. It's really awesome. You should check it out.
I had to grab a pen. I did, too, really. I'd show you all my writing this, but my handwriting is shit. All right. Hey, let's flip this to another point, though. All right, I mean, we've talked about movies and comics going to movies. What do you think about when a situation, which is obviously not as common, well, it's not as common anymore. It used to be way more common and the other way around, but now it's more, you see comics being turned into movies or TV series. But it used to be, you know, somebody put out a cartoon or something, and it would get made into a comic, right? And you happen to have quite a bit of experience working on a particular example of that. What was your experience with that, man, with working in the realm of the Simpsons comic, especially based on the fact that, I mean, it's something that's already been prior established outside of the comic book medium?
Well, first off, the thing that's great about the Simpsons is they are locked into their age, you know? Bart is always 10, Lisa's always 8, Homer's always 38 or 39, and so they're icons of their own particular, characters. Everybody's an icon. So their universe stays static, and you could just introduce new things all the day long. And I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I always was. I watch the show pretty much nonstop. So I was reading the comics even before I started working for those guys. And I thought they were great. It's also true that Matt Groening runs Bongo Comics. So he's the creator. So it's not like it's a corporate, setting. I mean, it's a corporation in some ways, but it's not completely removed from the creator. He's still there to go, this is good, this is not good, this is what my characters do, this is what my characters do not do. And so there's a quality control there that you can't get, with Superman. The Superman, basically, the creators have been dead for many years, and so who's keeping control of the quality? Well, I mean, I'm sure they're competent guys, but, they always have to wonder, oh, should I maybe not do this? See, I don't have to make that assessment in my head with my characters. I can tell you with 100% certainty what my characters will do and what they will not do. So if you're working on my characters, I know exactly what to tell you. I can answer all questions. There's never a question I go, well, maybe try this. No, I'm not wishy-washy at all because they're my characters, and I know them. And that's what you need, And now there's a few creators still hanging around in like Marvel and DC or some of the later characters, but, the big guys, they're basically gone. So that's why you get this ridiculous amount of variations that, okay, now we're going to Spider-Man's going to be this way, and he's going to be a cool guy who lives on campus and teaches physics. Or, oh, no, wait, now he's going to be a kid again. Oh, no, wait, now he's going to be a photographer again. Like, you know, that's why you have so many people remembering the characters in different ways. And then when that age group of people get in, they immediately change it back to what they thought was the right way to do it, as opposed to the creator.
I got a book for you to write, Tony. Right? And here's the title, and you can take it anywhere you want from this, right? Why Marvel superheroes all seem schizophrenic.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem. You got too many cooks. Look, it'd be different. Look, I'd be perfectly fine with if Marvel handed the keys to Spider-Man to Brian Bendis and said, okay, you're in charge until we fire you. Like, that would be fine. I mean, I like what some of Bendis does, and some of it I don't like, but at least it would be one vision and one guy. You can't have 50 guys working on Spider-Man. It doesn't make any sense. That's why Chris Claremont made the X-Men. He was the guy on the X-Men, and it was the most amazing book throughout the 80s. And everybody read it like we were riveted. You could literally buy an X-Men. You could buy an extra copy, and next week you could sell it for twice what you paid. It was that valuable, and people had to have it. That's how you make comics, the way Chris Claremont did. Anybody who should be in charge of Marvel Comics, it should be Chris fucking Claremont. He would make them millions, and every comic would be gold.
Wait, so you're saying he should be their editor-in-chief ostensibly?
Absolutely. He should be in charge of everything in Marvel. He should make every creative decision they have.
Are you trying to, like, send that motherfucker to an early grave? That would have to be stressful.
Well, sure. The problem with that, though, is he really wouldn't be in charge. It would be, you know, it would be the corporate guys who would be pulling the strings saying, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do this. We're doing this movie next week, so don't do that. You know, change this character, blah, blah, blah. That's the problem. You know? These movie companies,
to that effect,
you know, they're making movies.
Well, I'm curious, though, to that effect, when you were writing The Simpsons, the Bart Simpson comics and all those, did you ever come across an instance where you did something and they were like, no, Tony?
Nothing major, because, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to suddenly do a major change to Bart Simpson? They don't want that. I mean, Bart is Bart. I knew the rules getting in there. I'm just a hired hand. I didn't make Bart Simpson the mega hit that it was. Chris Claremont made the X-Men a hit. The book was being canceled when he got on it. They were getting rid of the X-Men. They were like, oh, this ain't going nowhere. And then Claremont came in and revived the whole thing, and it became this huge hit. He set the standard. I didn't set the standard for The Simpsons. I just write for him. They you know, The Simpsons is different, too. It's not a drama. It's a comedy.
Very true.
So it's like, when you do comedy, is basically the fans of comedy are like, okay, what are you doing next week? Like, okay, that was pretty funny. All right, give me the next issue. That's you know, they're just grinding through it. You know, with drama, it's a little different. There's a story, there's a narrative that has to be cared for. There's a continuity to The Simpsons, but it doesn't continue. It's static. So it always starts at zero, and then Homer comes out of his house. You know, Homer gets killed, it doesn't matter because next week he'll be back.
I guess, yeah, that's one thing. You're playing with characters where they do play with that rule as far as, oh, he died? Oh, we don't give a shit next week.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really kill off Homer unless it's, you know, they have rules for it, right? If Homer dies, then that's a Halloween special. If Homer, you know, Homer transforms and becomes gay like he did one episode, by the end of the episode, he'll be back to being Homer. That's the rule in The Simpsons, right? It always resets. In Marvel, it's supposed to be this continuity. Well,
yeah, it is. Look, they kill the character, and then after a couple months, they bring that motherfucker back.
Yeah, you can call that a continuity, but eventually people are going to go, I'm sick of seeing you, you know, the next time you say, oh, all the characters are going to die, people go, eh. So you lessen the impact. So You listen to Impact to everything.
Wait.
And you don't need to kill characters.
So are you saying that the snap from Infinity War, for anybody that hasn't seen Avengers Infinity War, I'm sorry. Oh, fuck, I won't say. But so everybody from that should just stay gone?
Well, that's the movie. We all know what's going to happen in the movies. That, first off, they've already advertised the Spider-Man movie, and obviously he's coming back. So, the Infinity War movie is different from the Infinity War comic. And again, the movies are coming to the end, which is why we're at Infinity War. In the comics, doing the Infinity War is kind of a mistake because everybody going into it knows it's going to have to be reset back at some kind of status quo that we could all live with. So you can't keep doing the Infinity War. You just can't. And so you want to stay away from those stories. You could have cosmic stories like the Silver Surfer, because the Silver Surfer can be out in space and he can have this big drama with a planet that gets destroyed and it's not impacting the other characters all that much. Like, that works because the Silver Surfer's out in space. And you can make up the planets, you can make up their whole history, and you can do stuff. But you can't do it with Earth. You can't destroy Earth and then keep bringing it back. You can't do a zombie apocalypse on Earth and then expect the Marvel Universe to continue. You have to do that as a fantasy story. But and look, we get it. Awesome. We're comic fans. We understand the difference between the fantasy stories and the continuity stories. But you have to put some effort into the continuity and keep it at some level of, sensibleness. So Spider-Man's always in New York. Thor's in Asgard, and the Hulk's running around the New Mexico desert. Just keep it status quo so we can read comics about the Hulk. I want to read Hulk comics. You want to shoot him in space once in a while, that's fine too, but if you're going to destroy half the United States with the Hulk, that's too big of a story. Scale it back.
Oh, you didn't like World War Hulk?
It's fun, but those kinds of things destroy the character because eventually you have to undo it and go back to status quo, and then you diminish the character in the long term. I mean, it would have been... They did World War Hulk already. It was... Peter David did it in that prestige format. It took place in the future after, there was a nuclear war and the Hulk took over everything.
Oh, yeah. That was in Old Man Logan.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah.
And you could do that because it's a fantasy story. It's not in the regular continuity, and you can have fun with that. You don't have to destroy, everything.
So what's your opinion, then, of them doing things like that? And the Ultimate Universe would be another case. And I know that DC has done this as well. I'm just not as familiar with DC. But they do that, and then they bring in Miles Morales, and they bring in Old Man Logan into the actual normal universe.
It's too much. I wouldn't do it. My thing would be, if I took over the Marvel or DC universe, I would immediately do a storyline where I would explain that all these different universes have their own little planets in the multiverse. So all these stories exist, and you can, visit them whenever you want if you travel the dimensions or the multiverse. And then I would start over with a brand new universe where everybody was status back to where they belong. Everybody's back to the Avengers are back in the mansion. Peter Parker's back in New York. Everybody's back where they're supposed to be. And then, do stories that take place in those places because that's what they were all about. And yeah, you can modernize them. You could do newer stories. You can have the characters go places, but have them, exist in a world that makes sense, that you're not going to rip in half every issue just to say, hey, look, we're ripping the world in half today. It would be interesting. I wanted to pitch another Batman story. I pitched a ton of Batman, by the way. You can see I'm a Batman fan. One of my pitches was that Batman decides he's going to rebuild Arkham Asylum's security system so no one could get out ever again. Okay? But the problem is, in order to complete the security change, he has to take the villains out for about 6 hours and finish the change, and then he can put them back in, and he'll never get out again. Well, of course, something goes wrong, and they all get out. It's another big, massive escape. But the premise is now that the villains have all decided during that moment where they're like in limbo, just before they escape, they all decide, hey, if I ever get out of here again, I'm leaving Gotham. Because the problem is Batman always puts us back here. Let's just leave Gotham. So then you do a year of stories where Batman has to go to different cities all over the world and recapture these villains. And they're in completely different cultures and cities. I mean, you could go to Italy. You could go to places in Africa. I mean, it'd be cool, right? Batman would have to then, deal with not only the villain, but these new cultures, the cops there, the language, and he can do it too, right? He's a millionaire. He's got all his money, and it would be awesome, And then he captures the villain and he puts him back, and like, there's no way they're ever getting out again. And that would be the premise of a bunch of stories. And you could do a lot with that without destroying the universe. I mean,
man,
the Joker running around Prague. I mean, you've never seen that. It's something different.
Tony, at this point, with the two pitches you've given for for Batman, I don't know about you, DKB, but I'm down with both of those.
Yeah. But I'm not a freaking genius. There are plenty of guys like me who can come up with those pitches, but they're not really in the mix, and they're not being hunted down because real writers, were paying.
There's no creativity in the industry anymore. Or is it because they're being, watched? They're being censored.
They're being censored to a great degree, I think. Look, I've met Mark Waid. He's a great guy, and I think some of his work's been great. But a lot of these guys, I mean, he's been doing it a long time. A lot of these guys have been in it a long time.
Right.
And so it's like their names become the thing, and now they're just so used to that money and that lifestyle, they don't want to leave. So I'd be the same way. I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. They want me to change a few things. Well, this paycheck's coming in. I'm down with that. So, I get it. I mean, I'm ghostwriting some shit now. I wouldn't dare tell you what I'm doing because I don't want anybody to ever know what I'm ghostwriting. It's embarrassing, but the money's good. So fuck it, I'm doing it. I mean, people got to survive, but, it's up to the editors and the people who run things at Marvel to have the vision to pick the right talent and
so
to
let's get
change
into
it over
Tony.
when it's time.
Well, let's get into it real quick. What are you currently working on?
Okay, let's see. I am working on a series of novellas, all prose, that are going to come out probably next year. And they're going to be about 80 to 100 pages each, following a group of characters. I can't tell you about it yet because I'm still working on it, but it takes place in South Jersey. A lot of my stuff takes place in South Jersey. And it does have some tie to the Jersey Devil, so I'll tell you that much. And so I'm going back to more prosy type stuff. That's what I'm working on, besides my usual stuff, which is the Webcomic Factory, where I do 7 comics a week. Let's see. Today is I Hate My Kids, which is about how terrible kids are. Tomorrow is Digital Hobo, which is about me as a freelance writer. It's like freelancer jokes, basically. Then Friday is, of course, Tales of Pizza, my experiences as pizza delivery guy. Saturday has become the anti-war comic day, which is my big political comic. Sunday is a mixed bag. I throw up whatever. It's kind of a rerun day where I take some of the old artwork and I put new balloons on it. But one of the comics I like to do is called TNA, which is a photo comic where I take a picture of tits and asses and have them talk to each other in 3 panels, which everybody hates, but I love it. Then that's Sunday. And then Monday is Herman Has Superpowers. It's about a guy named Herman who gets struck by a meteor, and he has superpowers, but the superpowers never, ever, ever help him. They only make his life worse. Currently, Herman is homeless, and he tried to save a busload of people, and they crashed into a telephone pole, and the bus burst into flames. So Herman tried to blow out the fire, but his super breath froze everybody. Then he tried to break the ice to free them, and he went like pink, and the head came off of one of the guys. So he just can't win. And then Monday is what's Monday? Monday's another mixed bag, and then Tuesday is In a Relationship, about how terrible relationships are. And I had a pretty good amount of hits Tuesday on Imgur from that one. It was all about a guy getting badgered by his girlfriend to get married, and she, she wants to get married, and he doesn't want to do it, and he just goes on and says, how horrible marriage is, and then he finally says, okay, I'll get married if you sign a prenup, and then she goes, why, you don't trust me? And then, that's the end of it. So that caused a lot of discussion on the boards.
Man,
so that was fun.
Tony, do you not do any positive fucking comics? What the hell?
Hey, I got divorced last year. I'm not exactly in the right frame of mind to do positive marriage comics right now.
Well, not positive marriage comics, just positive fucking period shit.
Oh, well, a lot of my shit's dark. I don't know. I Hate My Kids was a fun one today. It was 2 of the characters go out on a boat and borrow their dad's boat and set off fireworks, and they end up sinking the boat. That was fun. Just, kids in trouble.
Just, I want you to think of the sentence you just said, man. I Hate My Kids was fun today. Just if you didn't give that shit any other context, it sounds fucking terrible, Tony. Like, the fuck is this dude's problem? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's all comedy. Come on. It's funny. But, it's fun. And then, my other comic, which is currently on pause right now, but has been going very well, is Lester Crenshaw is Dead. And we're about halfway through the sequel called Lester Crenshaw is Still Dead, which is about a comic book geek who gets turned into a vampire. But he's terrible at being a vampire, so his stepmother and his sister have to help him. So that one's fun.
All right, you still got one other thing you're writing you ain't told us about.
Oh, of course, Super Frat, which I've been doing since, 1999, I think I started on that project.
How much
Super
shit
Frat
are you working on, Tony?
Didn't you just write a book, too?
Yeah, I ain't even gotten to that. I was just trying to fucking get him to fucking reveal what he's ghostwriting, and he said he never would.
Fuck You, I'm Italian. Why We Italians Are Awesome came out in March, and that's from Ulysses Press. You can get it off of Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or IndieBound, or in your local bookstore. I'm doing a signing this weekend, August 4th, at 1 p.m. at Books to Go in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. For those of you in the area, stop by. I'll bring some of my other comics as well. What else do I got? I just came out with a comic not too long ago, right around the same time. One of my Simpsons comics came out, The Mighty Moe's Sizzlack #1, which was all Moe's stories. It was a special. And I have a story in that called Moe and Barney's Excellent Adventure, where Moe and Barney's time machine and go cruising for babes. I currently don't have any copies left, but if you bring them, I'll sign them. So I've got about 60 some odd Simpsons stories. So if you go through the Simpsons comics, odds are you'll find one that I wrote somewhere. I've written a lot of Bart Simpson, so check those first if you're looking.
If you really just want to know everything he's written, as far, especially in the concerns of the Simpsons, like look at Wikipedia. It's honestly, I hate to give Wikipedia as a source, but you know That shit's usually pretty on point if you just want to get general information really fucking quick, and then you go into more specifics through Wikipedia.
I wrote most of my own Wikipedia page, so it's pretty accurate.
Oh, I'm gonna go in here and fuck it up right now, Tony.
Thanks for that.
I'm just gonna start adding shit. I'm gonna be like, he said he hates the comic that he's currently ghostwriting.
No, I'm not ghostwriting comics. I'm ghostwriting really not great stuff. But I can't tell you. It's a ghostwriting gig. If I tell you, I have to kill you.
Like, he just made me so much more interested to know that. You know, right, DKB?
Right. I can't. I'm contractually bound not to tell anybody I ever wrote this stuff, ever. That's what a lot of writers do. They ghostwrite. That's how they get, this isn't what I do, but that's how they get a lot of novels out there that, people, it's just amazing how many people don't write, but they want to take credit for writing. They want to take credit. They want to be like, oh yeah, I wrote that, but when they didn't do it. I couldn't imagine doing that. Like, you're taking credit for somebody else's work?
I totally figured out what he's ghostwriting, DKB. The next Game of Thrones. No, it's the next Game of Thrones novel, isn't it?
If only. If only. I'd be too rich to talk to you guys then.
Too rich to talk to most motherfuckers at that point.
Yeah. I'd be sitting on a big pile of money and women.
Like,
too busy.
Like, I got my throne. It's fucking made of hundreds.
Hundreds and honeys.
That's fucking terrible, Tony.
But yeah, I mean, once you become a brand, that's kind of what goes on in the world of publishing. Like, they just crank shit out, But it's good because books are coming back. Everybody's reading stuff on their Kindles and iPads and stuff, and so people are looking for longer formatted stuff. I was just watching the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking to Jordan Peterson about how people are so hungry for podcasts now because they like longer conversations, They like the details that people get into. So, because you can't, like if you go on CNN or the news or something, you'd be lucky to get 5 minutes in, That's not enough time to even rattle off all my credits. So, you got to have time so you can get into drill down in the things so people learn about you and what you're about,
Yeah, I can definitely see your point in that, man, because if you watch even an interview show, like if you were looking at like the late night shows and shit, it's a very 5 to 10 minute interview. It's this, and hey, get the fuck out of here. All right. And yeah, I see the point to that as far as being able to do quick promo and all that. But at the same time, if I'm trying to learn about somebody or somebody's projects, I would by far rather listen to a podcast of, them having a fucking conversation with a pair of assholes. Yeah, it's No Fucks Given Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you subscribe, click that notification button, all that good shit, right? For real.
Yeah, you go to, Colbert is entertaining, but he'd probably be way more entertaining if he did a 3-hour interview with somebody.
Oh my God. Colbert on any 3-hour interview. Yeah, Tony, that I'd watch it.
Yeah. Colbert is so talented. I used to love the Colbert Report. He was just on it every night. And and that's a guy who's he's really quick and he's funny. And a lot of these guys are way quicker than funny than you get to see on TV. I remember watching Chris Rock on Saturday Night Live, and I thought, why the hell did they hire this guy? He sucks. And then I saw him on stand-up, and I was like, oh my God, he's so amazing. How did Saturday Night Live destroy him? Why did they let him do this?
Because he said fuck a lot, Tony.
I guess. It's just weird. Some people just can't be contained in a 5-minute little thing. You gotta got to give them some room to breathe, or you got to help them out, or at least do the research. That's another thing too. Like, you see people, they do these fucking interviews and like they don't even do the research. They're like asking them stupid questions like, "Whoa, what are you about?" Like, fuckhead, you've got Google. Why didn't you like Google me and at least get the basic information? I used to do that. I used to do interviews in newspapers all the time because I did the Jersey Devil, and it's like, oh my God, I would get these reporters and they would report the same fucking thing every time. Drove me nuts. Tony DiGerolamo, age 35, who lives in Liverpool.
Fuck how old you are, Tony. I don't care, and we try not to do standard questions over here at No Fucks Given Radio.
Yeah.
We really do. But we've got one that I kind of want to get into. DKB brought it up a moment ago. But goddamn, why you got such an aggressive title for your book? Like, fuck you, fuck you, I'm Italian. Why so hostile, Tony? Calm down. I'm supposed to be the hostile.
It's not my title. All right, it's not my title, first off. Believe it or not, it's not my title. It's actually part of a series because the first book is called Fuck You, I'm Irish. So they were looking for an Italian comedian to write the second book, and I got the gig. So that's why it's called that. Now, a lot of people are like, I actually called an Italian podcast to try to get on and promote the book, and they were like, oh, no, we can't promote that book. We actually were offered to write the same book, and we turned it down because we thought it was disrespectful. And I was like, well, you missed out on money. But it's, some people, they laugh when they see the title.
Wait, and just the fact that it's Fuck You, I'm Italian, that makes it disrespectful?
I guess so. I mean, I thought it was fine. I mean, obviously it's tongue-in-cheek. The whole book's a big comedy thing, so... and it's got the fuck with a pizza where the U is, so it's not like we're actually using the word fuck. They did that on purpose, so it would come up on the searches. Because God forbid somebody see the F word, obviously, society would collapse and we'd all die.
Oh yeah, dude, don't you know that's what the fuck we're trying to do over here at No Fucks Given Radio, Tony? We're trying to collapse society because y'all have grown into some pansy ass, bitch, twat waffle ass motherfuckers. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because that would have fit, there are certain people, if they heard me say that, they'd go, oh, my ears. And I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, did you watch the news tonight? It was worse.
Which news?
Well, any news. I mean, just in general. You go watch any fucking news broadcast on the basic. It's pretty much going to get some more information to you that's far more terrible than the words that I just uttered. As far as, hey, well, there was a meth dealer down the house, blah, 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 somebody got shot. Oh, there was a terrorist attack. Like, shit that is way more important and you should be focusing way more time on as opposed to the fact that I said twat waffle.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem with today is people have this weird thing about free speech. Like, they don't like it anymore for some reason. It's become very trendy to say, oh, free speech. No, it's gone too far. We have to get rid of hate speech. We have to get rid of this speech and that speech. It's like, look, people have been talking for hundreds of thousands of years, literally. And they've said everything that's been said. And so what? It's never, words have never hurt anyone anywhere. Yeah, it might hurt your feelings, your poor little feelings. But if you're a grown-up, you can deal with that. Just walk away or say, fuck you, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Or don't listen to that. I mean, if you don't want to hear the word fuck, obviously you're not going to listen to No Fucks Given Radio. But obviously you're going to miss out if everybody's telling you, man, that radio podcast was awesome. And really, it's the kind of words that, like, if you use them in the right context, you don't even really fucking hear them. I watch the Rogan podcast and he'll say fuck or shit or whatever, but, like, you don't even notice it half the time. It's
because he's using it like it's the word the. It's so fucking fantastic. It is. Like, there's a way to make that to where it just becomes a fundamental part of your vocabulary, where it's not even something that you throw in consciously. It's just, hey, I said fuck because I needed another moment to think of the next sentence and how I was going to construe it and say that shit out loud. So I was like, well, fuck. And yeah, it's also, you can use that shit as a comma. I do all the time. I know that for a fucking fact.
Yeah, same thing on the Stern show. The Stern show, you listen to it now, and he'll drop the F-bomb. It's like, no big deal, because that's the way fucking people talk. I mean, if you're on the street and you talk to people, this is the way they fucking talk. Ah, fuck, what a day. I had a really bad day. Yeah, really? Yeah, fuck, that's too bad. Ah, hey, you want to go to the fucking Starbucks and get something? Yeah, fuck, yeah, let's go get something.
Now, let me propose a really fucked up question to you to that. Do you think that us as a society doing that will lead to something the links of idiocracy?
Interesting question. I would say idiocracy, whether it comes or not, won't be the result of the language. It'll probably be the result of people babying other people, you know? So there's this, fortunately right now, there's this big pushback against things like helicopter parenting and the PC culture. It's really gotten out of hand. It's like, okay, I get it. You don't want to see racist thing on your Twitter feed. Well, there's this thing on the Twitter feed where you could just block anybody, like fucking block people and shut the fuck up. You don't want to see it. That's what you do. You know, if someone's being rude or you know, they're attacking you personally on the internet, don't engage them. Don't feed the trolls. Block them and walk away. You know, I'm a libertarian, and on the libertarian subreddit on Reddit, we have a problem with, we get trolled by both parties. I mean, it's really bad. We get trolled by people coming out of the Donald and people coming out of like socialism, and we just get trolled all day long because we're libertarians and everybody hates us.
But what if I want to feed the troll so I can get it close enough to smash its head?
It's not worth it.
It can be,
I've completely
but look, Tony, come on.
trolls.
It can be fun sometimes. I don't mean like literally smashing its head for anyone out there listening. I just mean like, you know, throwing something verbally where it's like, well, fuck you too, man. And it's like, I got nothing more to say. Like, I just been out trolled by some random fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I got trolled by some guy on my website, and I figured out that not only could I block him or, you know, delete his comments, I could go in and change them. So I went in and I edited his comments, and I kept making him look like an asshole. And then I would reply to him, and he got madder and madder. Hey, you changed that. That's not what I said. And then, like, I'm like, look, you're obsessed with me. You know, I ran this guy ragged for about a month. He was going out of his mind. Like, I just kept saying, oh, you're in love with me. I understand, you know, because that's what trolls are. They're really in love with you, and they're very frustrated. So they love to troll you because they secretly love you and know you are unattainable. So, you know, I get trolled every day. People love me. I got trolled on Imgur yesterday for that interrelationship strip. And, you know, it's just that the positive comments outweighed the trolls. And, you know, you can do that all day long, but really most of these trolls are just kids or college kids with way too much free time. They're insecure. They're trying to, like, find themselves and trying to make their bones on the internet. And you just fucking ignore them, and they wilt away like nothing.
Well, can I say that to a point that you said earlier as far as us ostensibly people coming down against free speech and all that, which, look, obviously, for all you fuckers out there listening, if you think we're not down with free speech, you obviously didn't check the name of the radio. Like, I'm pretty much down with you fucking being down. Like, you say whatever the fuck you want. Just be aware actions have consequences. I mean, you do have to be cognitively aware of that as well. Like, you can't just go do whatever the fuck you want, because you might find yourself in a real shitty situation. All right, but as far as saying, I don't fucking care. But you said just block them, this or that, and I mean that's an old adage that I'd heard. As far as if you don't want to watch what's on the channel, change it. If you don't want to, and I think it was easier back then when it was just changing the channel, not renting the movie, not reading the book. Now it's on the internet, so it's just fucking constant and it's prevalent, and everybody's got their own fucking opinion. Do you think that's something that has made it to where us wanting to censor one another has become more of an issue just because of how readily anyone and everyone can make their opinion known throughout the world?
Well, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think what happened to people, first off, the internet keeps connecting to people who, I don't know if you remember the early days of the internet, but it was very cool, right? It was like the Wild West. You could literally click on a, random site like the randomizer on Yahoo and go to some crazy site. And you'd be like, wow, this is cool. More often than not, you would hit a cool site because the only people on the internet were the people who were hip enough to understand that this was the future and we all got to get on it. And, so it's like the early days of Facebook too. Like the only people in the early days of Facebook were like people who were savvy enough to even use the internet at all. But over the years, more and more people got on the internet, and the idiots got on too. The idiots, are like the last people to get on the internet. They're the last fucking people, or they're old, which is different. But the idiots who stayed off the internet for years, now they're finally here. And they're doing the same things a lot of us did when we were first on the internet, right? So like when I was first on the internet, I'd get on message boards, I'd get into arguments with people, I'd get so mad. I'm like, oh, that fucking guy, I'm gonna reply, and then I'd do exactly the opposite of what I just said, which was I was totally feeding the trolls, right? And then after years, I was like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time arguing with these guys online when I should be working or whatever, and so I stopped doing that. You learn your lesson on the internet. Oh, and by the way, I don't want to post this picture because it'll be on the internet forever. So you learn over the course of a couple of years of being on the internet, you don't feed the trolls, you don't post embarrassing pictures, you don't put embarrassing stuff on the internet, you stay off of that. But everybody has to learn that. And idiots are the last people to learn that. And some of them refuse to learn it because they're idiots and they're stupid. So what we have now is all these stupid people on the internet. And they were walking around before they got on the internet like idiots do, and they demand things because they're stupid and they think the world owes them everything. It's like the cosplayers who go to, say, like Dragon Con and expect every square inch of Dragon Con to be like perfectly safe for half-naked girls to walk around in their underwear, even at like 3 o'clock in the morning at the subway stop that connects to the fucking hotel. Like, you can't expect that kind of security and safety everywhere you go. You have to use a little common sense and maybe stay in the hotel lobby or cover up so you don't get into a situation where guys are leering at you if you don't want to be leered at. So these people who are complaining about the internet are the people who are relatively new to it and stupid that they think the internet owes them their safety, and they don't want to have to think. They just want to get on and be able to say and do anything and be completely immune to the consequences thereof. And you can't. You can't do that. Now, there are some people who use the internet and they're assholes. They're just assholes, and they're winding you up, and they just want to, fuck around and hurt people. I get that.
I may or may not be one of those people. I ain't trying to hurt nobody, but sometimes I am just being an asshole fucking around. I won't.
Well, sometimes you fuck around. Whatever. I mean, people do it. It's fine up to a point. When you start harassing people or people get really upset, and you go, look, I've gotten into political arguments. I'm a libertarian. I get into political arguments every day. But after a while, I just go, you know what? I'm done. This guy's getting too personal. He's getting really angry. He's cursing at me. This discussion's over, and I just end it. I don't even respond after a while. So that's what you have to do, and everybody has to learn that. And unfortunately, there's a bunch of people who refuse to learn that. They want Twitter to be 100% safe for them, for every one of their views. They want everybody to agree with them. That's just not going to happen. There's also mentally ill people out there, and they have access to the internet now. And these people are mentally ill but they're not mentally ill enough that they're not functional in society to a great degree. They're mostly they just basically come off as assholes because they're mentally ill. And there's nothing much you can do about them other than sort of tolerate them and say, listen, you're being a jerk. And when they go, oh, I'm not being a jerk, you're being a jerk. You just got to go block. And, you know, hopefully after several years of that mental illness running its course, maybe they get some help, or maybe they get off the internet and they don't have to, you know, deal with people anymore. But there's a lot of people on the internet who should just get off of it. My advice to you, if you're stressed out every day reading the internet, and reading Twitter, and reading Facebook, and reading this or that, my advice to you is get off the internet. Just get off of it. You're not obligated to be on the internet. Get off.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
No one told you to be on it.
I think the only thing that's honestly annoyed me recently on the internet is I see these thing about fucking pedophiles trying to be accepted as a sexual orientation, which
that's never gonna happen.
Yeah. If it ever does, we need to kill all of society. I want to state that publicly. Like, if that ever happens to where, like, hey, we're all okay with that, okay, that means we all need to be okay with death right now, because that's what we all need. We have become that deplorable as a society.
Where'd you hear that? I've never heard of that. That's not gonna happen.
Oh man, honestly, I think it's fake ass news bullshit. That's the other problem with half this shit, though. Like, if you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, you better do some research on that fucking article you see before fucking you really, because a lot of it's just fake bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's what you said.
I mean,
it's
you know,
motherfuckers trying to rile one another up.
Or it's like, it's not totally fake, but it's a spin on a news story that's completely exaggerated beyond any credulity. You know, you have to really... I spent years on the internet vetting my news sources, right? I used to be on BuzzFeed every day back in the day, very early, before BuzzFeed got really, really bad, and before I even realized it was a partisan news source. And then eventually I was like, you know what? All these guys do is bash one side every day. This isn't a reputable news source for me. Done. I was done. And I found better ones, you know, and I follow certain reporters, and I follow certain people, and other people I go, nah, that guy's not credible. Or I, you know, might follow them for a while to see if they're credible. But I mean, that's what you have to do now. The world's a lot more nuanced and sophisticated than it was. I mean, this entire podcast that we just did, people could take a couple of clips from this and make me sound like the biggest asshole in the world or the biggest hero in the world. And that's what happens every day on the news, on the regular news. They take clips and they shape the news the way, you know, some producer wants it, or the way it's expected of some people for certain, you know, gains, however that's perceived in the particular situation, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it goes back to a great adage is there's two sides to every story, and neither of them are completely true.
Exactly. That's why people want to circle back. That's why people want these long podcasts and discussions, because then you listen to them long enough and you get the full story and you understand, oh, okay. So, like, look, you can listen to the beginning of this podcast and think, oh, I'm some sort of anti-corporate guy and I hate corporate comics. That's not true. It's not that I hate corporate comics. I own plenty of corporate comics. I hate certain ones. I hate the way, you know, certain eras of these comics have happened. I certainly don't hate the Simpsons comics. I love them. But the further you get away from the creators, the further these things tend to get out of the hands of the people who produce them. And it doesn't make those people evil. I'm not trying to say they are evil. It's just the way it is.
Can I just say, though,
that's a very nuanced position.
Unless you hand Garth Ennis the Punisher, and then he takes it right back to where the fuck it should have been all the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's just one of those things, though. I think that's one of the rare circumstances they found a guy that was that was a character he was made to fucking write for. I think, and that's the thing, like you said, it's something they just hire whoever. They don't actually go after a motherfucker that, hey, you got a passion for this and that, and yeah. Oh, God, I think it's just becoming a problem all over the entertainment industry, Tony. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they do. I mean, out there in LA, there's certain skills that LA writers tend to develop more so than the East Coast writers. But the problem now, I think, at Marvel is it's very insular. They're pushing this diversity thing, and it's not working, and they refuse to let go of it because everybody in charge right now is still tied into that enough that their reputation's on the line. If they don't make it work, they're done. So that's all going to implode soon. Meanwhile, over at DC, ironically enough, the ironic thing now is like it seems like the Marvel movies are doing great, the comics are doing shitty, and at DC, it's the opposite. The movies are doing horrible, but the comics are doing great. I've heard. I've been out of the comic loop for a little while, so I don't exactly know what's going on at the DC comic level, but I know they're not at least hitting this diversity thing as hard as the Marvel guys are by a long shot.
Marvel even got the TV, like the Netflix series. Too.
Yeah,
there's not much DC.
I love the first season of Luke Cage was cool. I loved it.
Yeah.
That Punisher.
I love the Escape from Prison episode. I haven't seen the Punisher one yet. I just got so much going on.
I just finished Daredevil too.
He's the perfect actor for it, I'll tell you.
Yeah, the guy that he's the guy that played Shane from The Walking Dead. I don't know his name escapes me. But yeah, he did a fantastic job playing that character. Like, I was impressed.
He looks like him a lot. I mean, it's good casting. It's a good casting call for him, that actor. He's perfect too, because Shane on The Walking Dead was such an asshole. And he's got that sort of edge to him, you know?
Like, I'll fucking kill you if you look at me sideways?
Yeah.
Because that's the edge you need playing Frank Castle. Look at me sideways.
Absolutely.
I'll shoot you 6 times. I swear to God. Like, yeah, he pulled that off really well. So I'm curious, man. Is there a project out there that you would just love to work on? Like in comic books, man, that's like a previous existing character. So like a character you'd love to just have the chance to play with. Who is it?
Oh, Batman, definitely. Over at Marvel, it would be Spider-Man. I think I would be really good on Spider-Man because, you know, one of the things I did, I used to write jokes for Politically Incorrect when Bill Maher was on Comedy Central. And, you know, a lot of my background's in comedy, so I think I could do some really funny Spider-Man issues as well. But if I had a choice out the gate, I would say to the editors, give me the worst-selling comic that you won't cancel, which for a long time was Wonder Woman. And I had plenty of pitches for Wonder Woman at the time. Because my theory is, if you get on the worst-selling comic, but as long as they don't cancel it and you do good stories, eventually the readership will gravitate towards you and you'll have a hit on your hands, as opposed to getting launched into like a big book like Batman or Superman right out the gate. And it's a lot tougher then, because you may not have the time to build up the audience or build up your version of Superman or whatever you want to call it before people go, give me somebody else.
Fair enough. Yeah, I see your point there. But man, hey, look, you've made 2 pitches for Batman, both of which I'd be totally down to see in the comics. And I'm not even a Batman fan. DKB can attest to this. He gives me shit about it sometimes.
How can you not be a Batman fan? He's a man.
Okay, fine. You want me to explain why?
Yes.
Because Bruce Wayne's a fucking prick.
How so?
Because he is a goddamn billionaire in a shithole town, and he chooses, like a sociopath, to dress up like a fucking bat and fight supervillains, as opposed to doing some serious charity shit and really helping the overall town. With which the amount of money he fucking funnels into his Batman campaign, I would think he could easily do that.
I think you definitely have a point, but the thing that I would say this.
I'm pretty sure Bruce Wayne does do charity stuff, so.
Yeah, that's the first thing. But I would say that the DC, the current, and I would say like the last 20 years of DC writers have so darkened Gotham since 1988, Gotham has become an incredibly dark place, and it wasn't always that way. I'm old enough to remember. I mean, the first Batman comic, or first comic I ever got was a Batman comic. It was Neil Adams' comic, and it wasn't like that. Gotham had problems, but it was basically New York City in the 70s. And now it's not that way. Now it's like everything's hanging by a thread in Gotham, and if Batman doesn't go out and patrol, everybody and like more people die.
So now Gotham is RoboCop's Detroit.
Yeah, it's like it's too much. Like Batman used to go after, and this is the way I would do them. Batman used to only go after the big villains. Like, okay, he'd catch a perch snatcher once in a while if he just happened to be in the area, but he's not going to go on patrol against street crime. Like, he goes after these really tough villains who are doing massive crimes in his city. And in order to commit these crimes, the villains have to have something to steal. If Gotham is completely broke and has been destroyed again and again and again, what is there left to steal from Gotham? Why do people keep coming to it? So you can't make Gotham like totally destroyed. You have to make it a city that's functional. And some of the cops need to be functional. And there has to be a world there that functions. In the world, in my view, the world of Gotham doesn't really function in the comics much anymore.
Fair enough. Well, I think he could have made that not happen because he's a fucking billionaire.
Well, but that's part of the issue with the writing. It's not the issue with the character, I would say. If the character's written right, then, you know, the Gotham is not that bad. And he's going after the big criminal organizations. And I also think, too, like I said in one of my stories, I would like to see Batman leave Gotham every once in a while and do something cool somewhere else because that would challenge him more. It seems to me that some of these villains could also challenge themselves by going elsewhere. I mean, it'd be great to see, you know, even if they just went to like, I mean, has DC ever had a comic that takes place in, say, Chicago? You know, or Los Angeles? I mean, like, there are other cities in the world. Move the characters around a little bit.
I don't know. I want to see Joker. I want to see Joker become the Flash's new arch nemesis. That would be awesome.
Yeah, why not? For a few issues, that would be fun.
Like, yeah, just for a few issues. Like Joker just fully fucking with the Flash. Like, yeah, I think that could be interesting. You know? So yeah, I mean, like I said, your two pitches, man, I think they're really good ideas. I mean, there's something I'd honestly, if it was laid out to me like that, I'd be like, God damn, I kind of want to go pick up that Batman and read it, which is not a statement you guys are going to fucking ever really hear from me. Because I'm just, like I said, I mean, if you're a fan of Batman, all more power to you. Just me personally, it's not my thing. But then you said Spider-Man, who is one of the original characters that really got me started. I know you got a pitch, man. I just want to hear at least one, Tony.
Let me think. I guess I got to remember these are really old pitches.
Come on, old man.
Well, my original comic that I pitched for, and I pitched a bunch of what ifs because I wanted to do what ifs because those are a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
I wanted to do what if the Marvel characters existed during the Civil War, which would have been fun because I wanted to do a steam-powered Iron Man, like 90 feet tall. But Spider-Man's pitch. Oh, okay. I'm remembering it now. Peter Parker gets blackmailed by his pediatrician because pediatrician is dying of cancer, and he figures out through blood tests and through examining Peter's medical records that he's Spider-Man. And he wants him to do stuff for him before he dies because his daughter was killed by this organization, and he's manipulating Peter into destroying it. That was the basic premise of it. I forget the rest of it, but so it was this idea that Peter has to fight these guys, but at the same time he's being manipulated, and you don't know where this blackmailer, where his, you know, whether he's a good or bad guy. And so Peter is like, on the one hand, he's stopping crime. On the other hand, like, this guy is making him do it. So that was one of them.
Tony, I like
with the
your
Marvel
pitches.
stuff, it's a lot more inside. A lot of their stories tend to be more inside. I would definitely do the 12 new villains, though, for Spider-Man. That would be fun.
Oh, look, see, like, you're going to say that, and I'm going to fucking, I got to ask you, like, a couple more things, man. Like, so you said 12 more villains for Batman, 12 more villains for Spider-Man.
Sure.
So, what is the ultimate new villain to introduce to each of them, in your mind?
Oh, the ultimate new villain for Batman is easy. The first story I had it all written, was the man who stole the Batmobile. And he's another millionaire, just like Bruce Wayne, but he's evil. And he decides, he doesn't start as a villain, he's just an asshole. And he starts with, he wants to steal the Batmobile. And so he steals it, using technology and he manages to steal it. But then Bruce has to get the Batmobile back without him realizing that he's Bruce Wayne, because he also knows him since he's another billionaire moving in his circles, and he has to be very careful. And so at the end of the story, he gets the Batmobile back and humiliates him, and he gets a police record. So that starts the story with the 12 villains, in that this guy, the billionaire, starts financing all these new villains to get back at Batman for humiliating him. And he wants the Batmobile back for his collection because he's obsessed with cars or whatever. For Spider-Man, it's a little tougher because they kind of already have the anti-Spider-Man, which is Venom, and which I always thought it was a good character initially, but they kind of messed it up. They're trying to make him a good guy because he was too popular. I thought, McFarlane's original take early on was good, and that's about as far as it should have gone. They had a great ending. McFarlane had a great ending for Venom, where Peter fakes his death on this tropical island fighting Venom, and Eddie Brock thinks he's finally killed him and just goes to live out his life on the tropical island alone, and Peter leaves. I thought that was a great ending to the character, and they just left him on the island there. It would have been cool just to leave him there forever. But, they had to bring Eddie back. But for Spider-Man, I don't know. Who did I have in mind? Jeez, can't think of anybody right now. Probably have to
can't say a
do a whole. Probably have to do a whole research thing where I find out what the enemies of spiders are, and then figure out a good anti-spider character to stick on Peter. But it would be fun.
Yeah,
I would greatly enjoy writing Spider-Man, mostly because I like doing comedy stuff.
Okay, I just point out, I think fucking Stan Lee beat you to the punch, because spiders, their enemies are like birds, toads, lizards, and monkeys.
Yeah, he's pretty much covered them all. That's why it's going to take a lot of research.
Yeah, they've pretty much already covered all those motherfuckers in the Spider-Man comic books, which is, like you said, it's not surprising as long as that shit has been running overall, which, Jesus. Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, Peter's got plenty of villains. I think, it'd be great to maybe have you just have to think about all the elements of the Peter Parker character. Like, Peter's not rich, so it'd be great to have a character who was sort of equal on par to Spider-Man, except he had money. That would be kind of cool, right? So, he's fighting this guy constantly, and the guy's costing him money, but he's got, money to burn, so it doesn't matter. Maybe all his powers are, they're all gadgets he bought and, from Stark Industries, and that's why he can do all the stuff that Peter does. But,
didn't they kind of, didn't they kind of do that when Deadpool got rich, though?
Deadpool's not really.
I guess he wasn't really Spider-Man's enemy, but he wasn't really his fucking friend either. He's just like this nuisance that wouldn't go away. I'm gonna fuck you up, Wade.
Yeah, that's the problem with a character like Deadpool, the Punisher. these guys who become, and even Venom, they try to make them good guys because they're so popular, and that is a mistake in my view. Like, they destroy, in my view, they destroyed Lobo doing that. Like, Lobo was a great character. It used to be like, when they mentioned him in Legion, people would like turn white with fear because they were so afraid of Lobo. And when you saw him mentioned in the comic, like, oh my God, Lobo's going to be in the next issue. I got to read this. And then Lobo would show up and, like, you know, he would still do stuff, but like it wasn't like that crazy. Then they just fucking beat Lobo to death doing all this crazy shit with him until, like, okay, I'm sick of Lobo. Like, he needs to be a side character. There's certain characters that work much better as side characters. It's like Boba Fett. Like, Boba Fett shouldn't get his own movie. He's so much cooler as a mysterious bounty hunter.
Sir. That is blasphemy.
Not blasphemy at all.
Look. I read the fucking the Mandalorian trilogy, whatever. I don't know. It was a series of books where Boba Fett was the fucking main character, and those books were fantastic.
I'll have to take your word for it. But from a movie perspective, I think Boba Fett worked great as this mysterious guy who was feared. You didn't see him that much, and that's why people liked him. And then they just kind of, you know, I think that's a mistake to beat these characters to death. You got to keep them in the mix. I want to see them, but I don't want to see you beat the character to death until I'm sick of seeing it. Then I'm like, ouch. So, yeah, if you want to get into a discussion about Star Wars, it's not going to go well for you because I'm done with Star Wars. I was done when the first prequels came out. So
you were fucking adamant about, like, I'm done with Star Wars. Just done. Like, you won't even go see like Solo and Rogue One and all that shit.
I got roped into seeing Solo. It's an abomination. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Fuck Star Wars. For as wonderful as the Marvel movies are, the Star Wars movies, they're just shit in the bed every chance they get now, in my opinion. So I love the original ones, but even in '83, and I'm old enough to remember '83 coming out of Star Wars, the discussions, people were pissed at Lucas for Return of the Jedi. Like, who the fuck are these Ewoks? Why were they in the movie? I don't remember these guys. You know, people were upset, but, like, people tolerated it because it was the end of the trilogy, and okay, you see the end, all right, good, done. Fucking prequels, no thank you. I saw the recut of the first movie, the original movie, with all the extra added scenes. It's brutal. It ruins the pacing of the movie. That's when I knew we were in trouble. And then I saw the Phantom Menace, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. Like George Costanza on Seinfeld. I'm out. I walked out of the theater, that's it. Never saw another Star Wars movie after that until I got dragged into Solo.
Hey.
There's certain things you shouldn't show. There's certain things you never want to show. So, like, when Han Solo says, I did the Kessel Run and blah, 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 you don't want to show that. And they show that in Solo, and it's stupid. So it completely diminishes it. It's why, like, I asked Chris Claremont, I did an interview with him years ago, and I said, what is the origin of Wolverine? And he turned to me and he said, I was never going to tell you. I was always going to keep it a mystery. There was always going to be hints in the background. You were never going to know. That's the right answer.
I mean, yeah,
they've told
the origin of Wolverine now.
Yeah, it diminishes the character. It was better that we didn't know and that he was this mysterious character. Was he a mutant? Was he an alien? Was he this? Was he that? We don't know. Like, that made him intriguing. Now that you know, he's not as intriguing. You know, if you're going to end the series and never do another Wolverine comic again, okay, yeah, tell us all the secrets and then call it a day. But not if you're going to continue it forever. One of the best comics I ever read, Alan Moore, what is it, the last Superman story ever told, or the greatest Superman story ever told?
I believe it's the greatest.
Alan Moore wraps up all the Superman from the old continuity. It's great. You never have to read another Superman comic again. You read that.
I prefer just to keep my Superman comic reading to where it is, which is very, very minimal. Yeah, that's.
Well, but that's a great story because everybody, most of the villains just die in it. It's great.
Oh, his Alan Moore. See, I might pick that up, but it's only because it's Alan Moore. I'll tell you, if we're gonna talk about character continuity like that, I think one of the situations where I've seen DC handle it best, in my opinion, was with Hitman.
That was a fun book. I remember that book. Yep.
Yeah, because it was a situation where Garth Ennis created a character, did 60 issues, killed the character. You never seen that fucker again.
Yeah, it was probably in his contract, and good for him for doing that. Another great book to read is The Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe. I love that book.
Yes,
it's the greatest book ever, and not because everybody dies, but because there's an ending. It finally fucking ends.
Very true.
And there's consequences.
Very true. Very true. Well, Tony, is there any final thoughts you want to give to the people out there as far as what you got coming up, where they can go find you and such?
All right, come to my signing. Books to go in Cherry Hill on August 4th. I'll be at Rahway Con on August 11th, and I got a signing at a Barnes & Noble. When the heck is that? I think that's September 8th, I want to say. Looking on my calendar, yes, September 8th at Barnes & Noble in Marlton, New Jersey. So those are my next 3 signings. Come to my website, the Webcomic Factory, at thewebcomicfactory.com. Read all my comics there. Go to Superfrat at superfrat.com. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Indie Bound to buy Fuck You, I'm Italian, Why We Italians Are Awesome. Download it and review it, please. Please review it.
Hell yeah.
And,
that's what's up. Tony.
And read my various Simpsons comics. Go to my Wikipedia page. And if you really like me, go to my Patreon page and throw money at me. Thank you.
I love that. Throw money at me. That's a way to fucking hopefully get people to throw money at you, I suppose. I don't know, but whatever. I know, Tony, again, thank you for stopping by Supah Nerd-tendo, man. As far as myself and DKB, I gotta say, you can catch me and him this fucking August 11th. Yeah, coming up at Cheers Pub up in South Bend, Indiana. Open it up for Schizo. If y'all are into some underground shit, come see that. We got some shit planned musically. You can catch me and him together doing some shit, repping No Fucks Given Radio, ladies and gentlemen. But this has been Supah Nerd-tendo, right? Again, shout out Tony D for stopping by. I'm still not saying your last name. Fuck that shit. DKB, final thoughts.
No, man, just appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. Hey, and for you fuckers out there in the land of YouTube, go over the radio and listen to some dope music and all that shit. For real. Besides that, fuck you, he's Italian. The book is Fuck You, I'm Italian. Buy him, but fuck you, he's Italian. Have a good night.